Okay, Weiss players. Weiss is a game about reactions, not actions, and check out the other videos if you haven't already. Now, let's just jump right in. First, I'd like to talk about going first. When you're going first, your first turn is actually a lot different than the other turns you'll take for the rest of the game. The main thing is you can only attack with one character. Therefore, we have to change our gameplay during the first turn accordingly. Since you're not going to be getting the benefits of attacking with three characters, you also need to change up your playstyle for only playing with one character for the turn. This may sound complicated, but it's not. It pretty much boils down to this. If you are going first, only play one character during your first turn. A lot of you out there are probably thinking, but if I've only got one character on the field, then I have two open spots, and I'm going to take more damage during my opponent's next turn. That's actually not as big of a problem as you might think. And I'll go a bit more into detail on that in a later video. For right now, you just need to trust me. If you're going first, it is better to only play one character. I should probably also clarify that when I say play one character, I mean one front row character. There's really no downside to having back row. Another great tip is try to play your first character on the right of the stage or the left of the stage. The reason being is, if your opponent does happen to have two assist level zeros in their hand, and they play them both in the back row, then their front row center stage is going to get the bonuses from both. That makes it easier for them to step over whatever your first character was. But if you play it to the right or the left, then they have to play it to the right or the left if they want to step over you. That means that they won't get both bonuses, and that means that they have less of a chance of being able to step over you. They'll probably have to play in an open spot and just deal some straight soul damage, and you'll get to save your character. If your opponent's got a pretty decent hand, then they'll probably be able to play more than one character, and that means they're probably going to step over your first turn character anyway, but you do increase your character's survival chance. If your character stays alive for one more turn, then that means they can get you one more stock, and they can also get you a bit more soul damage. The great thing is you get all of this without having to drop another card from your hand. If you have two more characters in your hand, then you can drop both of them and have a full field without having to drop all three characters, making the character itself much more valuable. Here's a trick that should help you the entire game. If you have anything in your hand that would allow you to draw a card, or any effects on the field that would allow you to draw a card, try to get those out of the way first. What you draw might change what you plan on doing for the rest of the turn. This should probably be obvious to everybody, but it's amazing how quickly people forget it. So, when you play a climax card, it means that you've ended your main phase. This is incredibly important, and most people will not let you get away with this. I have a friend that plays with me all the time, forgets this every time we play. They play a climax, then they move their characters around. All movement of characters and all playing of characters must happen before you declare your climax phase. And playing a climax card means that you are past declaring your climax phase and you've started and are about to end your climax phase. When you're placing your characters, remember to put them right in front of the character that they're going to be facing. This is a pretty basic and obvious rule, but a lot of people forget to do this too. They just play their characters, and when they go to the battle phase, they forget that they accidentally put a character in the wrong slot. Since characters can only attack the character in front of them, try to even your characters out so that the person they're taking on is going to be reversed that turn. Speaking of which, I'd like to take a moment to talk about assists. You want to keep your assists right behind the characters you want to live the longest. It's normally going to be your strongest characters, or at least your strongest character options at the time. A lot of people forget and they put their assists behind characters that don't really matter at all, so that the characters that are really important aren't actually getting the bonus. Remember to move your assists around and don't end your main phase until your assists are assisting the characters that they need to live. One last thing on assists. Don't forget that the character in your front row center stage is going to be getting both buffs. This can be used in a variety of different ways, but I'm going to tell you about the two main advantages of this. The first way is using the power boosts to turn one of your normally weaker characters into something strong enough to take out whatever is on your opponent's center front row. The second is making one of your strongest or one of your most important characters lives slightly longer. If they're getting both buffs, then your opponent has to play something stronger in that slot to take care of them. You can also use this to set up and bait your opponent. See, since your opponent's strongest character is the one that can be in the center slot, put one of your weaker characters in the center slot instead, and then put one of your stronger characters off to the side. They have to play a stronger character to the side if they want to take that one out, and they can play one of their slightly weaker characters in the center slot. And once they do that, they destroy your character, and you can react with something stronger.
Wow, I think that might actually wrap up the main phase. That was a lot shorter than I expected it to be, especially considering it's the most important phase of the game. Honestly, from there though, it pretty much just boils down to common sense. Make your numbers higher than your opponent's numbers and play smart. Read effects, and make sure that you're not falling for any traps. Experience is the best tool, so just learn naturally as you're dueling. You're not going to be able to learn everything about the card game based on these videos or just stuff you read online. You're going to have to go out there and actually play people and learn by doing. If you do something during your main phase that doesn't quite work, then you'll know for next time. When you're going first, try to only play one character during your first turn in the front row. If you see what your opponent plays, then you're using your cards to react to their cards rather than them reacting to you. And unless you have two level 0 assists in your hand you can play it to either the left or right of the stage. During the main phase in general, if you're already planning on playing any cards in your hand or activating any effects on the stage that would allow you to draw cards, try to get those out of the way first. You never know, what you get might just change up what you plan on doing for your turn. Since the character in the front row center stage gets both effects from your assists, try to use that to your advantage. Use it to make one super powerful character your opponent can't step over, or use it to bait out whatever their strongest character would normally be. You can also use it to keep more important characters alive slightly longer, if they don't have as much power. Lastly, the climax phase and the main phase are two different things. Please remember to play all of your main phase effects before you set your climax card down. Your climax card declares that you're ending your main phase, so make sure that doesn't happen before you actually want your main phase to be over. Join us next time, Weiss fans, and we'll get to the fun stuff. The battle phase. This is the phase where you find out if everything you've done up to now actually pays off and gets you the advantage you were looking for. It's also the phase where you get to watch the cards on your opponent's fields die. Hopefully. See you then!